If this video can just help someone study more effectively and get amazing grades while living an amazing life, I'll be super happy. So I'm making this video for my younger self 1 year ago because I didn't have any clue on how to study or how to do it effectively or how to learn. I never cared about school, but now I feel like I've been studying really, really well and performing at the top in my chiropractic school while still living an amazing lifestyle. So let's get into it. First of all, I just wanted to show what getting amazing grades should look like, in my opinion. This is basically how I've been living whilst learning a lot of information in my chiropractic studies, and it's felt quite easy, felt quite non-restrictive, and I've been able to do a lot of things outside of school as well, which I think is key to a long and healthy career. So how can you manage to do this? How have I decided and how have I managed to learn such effortlessly? Well, there are 3 key concepts that I've developed over this year that I feel like are crucial to learning a lot of things in a short amount of time and really retaining the information so you don't have to study it over and over again. So number 1 is the marathon versus sprint concept. So think of it that the course that you're undertaking or the subject that you are trying to learn is a marathon. You cannot study everything at once. You cannot sprint a whole marathon. It's impossible. You need to take it one step at a time, slowly but surely building up the knowledge. So this means consistently studying every day in short sprints of intense focus. Now what this does is that you actually learn what you are studying. I know that sounds silly, but many people just have long sessions of mindless, unconscious reading or watching something, thinking that it will get into their brain, but it actually doesn't. Have you ever read something and you think that you will remember it, but when you finish reading, you're just like, I don't even know anything what I read there. So you have to go back to it, read it again, countless amounts of times. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, unnecessarily. So every day you should be doing one little thing and really retaining it in your brain and actually understanding what you're studying. Retaining a little bit of information instead of trying to read a lot of information at once. So much more effective. My golden time of the day, the early morning. Anyone who knows me in class knows that I am awake very early. Sometimes 4:30 even in the morning. Now why is that? Because I have created a rule very early in my studying career here at Barcelona. I realized that the morning holds tremendous value for me for studying. So my rule is that every day I will study the first thing I do in the day. It doesn't matter what I have to do, what time I have to get up, or what I have to do after studying. I will study before. Point blank. So if we have school at 8, wake up at 4, study before it. Now why? Because what else is there to do at this time of the day? You see where I'm going with that? If there is nothing else to do, all I can focus on is studying, uninterrupted. I cannot get interrupted by a girl that I want to see, a sport that I want to play, a training that I have to do, by friends that I wanted to see me, or calling friends and family back home. Nothing. It doesn't exist at this time of the day. I can only focus on studying and having my morning coffee, which I love to do. Also, I think that the peak mental power in the day for me is early in the morning, just after I wake up. Because I haven't used it for anything else. I feel like mental power and mental clarity is like a battery, and it drains during the day and just decreases. But if I can take advantage of the time of the day where I have the most mental energy and use it for learning, it makes so much more sense. The last thing why the golden early morning is so effective is through my own scientific studies, morning coffee gives a 10x results. Just as simple as that. No further explanation. It's scientific studies. I came up with it, the theory, and it 100% works. So trust me. Third, non-negotiable concept is being active while learning. If you're not active with the information does not get in. As simple as that. It's a little bit like I talked about earlier in concept 1. Basically, as I'm studying neurology, I'm starting to learn that in order for you to learn something, the cells that make up the brain have to connect in a certain way. And the only way for them to do that is for you to actually do something with the information. So if you just passively read or watch something, nothing happens in the brain. You're just there unconsciously spending time, and you will forget all about it. But if you do something with the information, for example, writing with your hand, making a list, making a mind map from scratch, you draw, it gets into the brain. You get mental images, you build new connections, because it's something difficult that the brain has to solve. It's a problem. It feels like, wow, what is this? I haven't done this before with my hand or with my brain. I need to adapt, which humans are very good at. So small information that you actually remember and that you actually retain is so much more valuable than trying to fit a lot of information in, but you forget most of it. This is how many people study here. They try to study a lot of information, which they do not retain at all. But I try to focus on a small amount every single day where I remember it. And I feel like it works so well that I can even retain it for long periods of time without looking at it again. The reason why this is so effective is that knowledge compounds. You see, if I learn the very, very basics of a subject and I learn them by heart, this means that I unlock the doors and the opportunities to learn other, more complicated things in that subject. You cannot learn the complicated details without knowing the basics. So if I just learn the small amount, the very, very basic stuff, which are quite easy to learn, but I really learn them by heart, when I read the other things, I will associate these new things to that thing that I already know, which makes it so much more easy to learn it because I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting from a base in my brain, a mental image of something, and I just have to link the new thing to the knowledge that I already have, and then go from there. For example, learning a new word in your mother tongue is much easier than learning a new word in a language that you've never learned before. Why? Because you can take this new word, use it in everyday scenarios, use it in sentences, and it sticks. As simple as that. Some extra tactics that will make you look like this guy and study out there in the sun in beautiful Barcelona. Looks quite nice, I think, this lifestyle. Well, the blind mind map strategy. You might be thinking, what the hell is this? It's a new thing that I have actually developed myself. I haven't heard anyone speak about it before. It might exist out there somewhere, but for me it's new at least, and I didn't learn it from someone else. I came up with it. And it's basically the act of making a mind map, but making it completely from scratch without reading any information. So you take the simplest mind map that you can draw of a certain subject or a certain concept, and you do it from your head, on paper. Write it onto a paper. Then, when you cannot do it any more detailed, you go back to the material that you have to learn, and you add these details to the mind map. Then, you try to do the new mind map with more detail added from your head, without looking at any notes or any information. Again, you do this as detailed as possible, and then add more details from that. What this happens is that eventually you will have the whole mind map of the whole part of the subject, which is quite detailed. It's quite a lot of information at first, you think. But when you have done this tactic, you can get the mind map into your head and be able to draw it anytime, anywhere, any place, which is quite handy for example, an exam situation. If you don't really understand what I'm saying here, I'll make an example. For example, you need to study all the muscles of the arm. Maybe I know 2 muscles of the arm. Okay, I will do these. I will draw something. I will make a mind map from these 2 muscles out of my head without looking at anything. And then I will try to add more muscles on top of this that link to the other ones. Maybe they have the same function, the same location in the arm, or some other thing in common. I try to do this now out of my head from scratch without looking at the book or looking at a picture or anything. I repeat it until I can name this out of my head, and then I add the rest. Eventually, I will know all of the muscles of the arm in my head. Another really effective tactic is spaced repetition. So this is when you try to learn something, but instead of repeating it many times in the same session, you space it out. So you take long breaks in between, for example, half a day or a day between repeating it. This way your brain has to work more and strengthens these connections that we were talking about earlier. For example, I might have a list of 10 new words that I have to learn in a certain subject. I will repeat them in the morning, in my morning study session, and then randomly throughout the day I will repeat them at lunch and then repeat them in the evening as well. By evening it should usually stick quite well. And if I do it one more time the next day, long-term memory is stored just like that. Because the strength of the connection determines if it's going to be a long-term memory or if you're going to forget it after a while. Mnemonics are often also quite effective. I don't know if I have to explain it to you, but they do work for sure. It's when you take the first letters or the first parts of a word in the list and you create a new word from that.